Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Bioware has released the release date trailer for Dragon Age The Veilguard. It's given us a lot of information, but also brought up a lot of questions. So I thought it would be interesting to do a video walking through the parts of the game that I'm really excited about and some areas of the game that I still have strong reservations for, and hopefully some of those questions will be answered by multiple things that are on the roadmap. We can compare notes. Maybe some of you have reservations I haven't even thought of. Definitely leave it down in the comments below and let me know if you're excited for the game. Let's go ahead and dig into the list. First, I'm going to give you 5 things that I'm really excited for, and then we'll delve into the things that I am not so sure about. This list is going to be in the order of what's most important to me, and first and foremost, I am super excited for the return of the Grey Wardens. I played Dragon Age Origins way back when it first released, and I absolutely loved that adventure. I loved playing as a Grey Warden. I think their lore and their part in stopping the Blight is such a strong aspect of the world building that Bioware has done for this series. Unfortunately, the Grey Wardens have gotten kind of screwed over since that first game. In Dragon Age 2, they're barely around, and in Dragon Age Inquisition, their order is all but shattered. So my hope is that in Veilguard, the Grey Wardens are going to be able to come back in a big way. I cannot wait to visit Weishaupt, cannot wait to meet Davrin and his Griffin. I think all of that looks fantastic, so I'm really excited to see the Grey Wardens get back on their feet. Number 2 on the list, I am so excited after all this time to finally visit Tevinter. We have heard about this place for so long, a place where mages are in complete control, a place where the Chantry has no power whatsoever, a place that is constantly feuding with the Qunari. I'm hoping that a lot of those things that we've heard about, we're going to finally learn. In each Dragon Age game, you feel closer to a particular area, and I'm really hoping that in this game, we're going to be able to feel close to Tevinter, feel like we've learned a lot about it, and that we've really planted our flag there. From what little we've seen, the environments look incredible, so hopefully the actual game holds up. Number 3 on the list, I am so excited to finally meet the Elven gods and get a full resolution to Solas's story. The persecution of the elves has been front and center in pretty much all of the games, and it's pretty typical in games that when you see an entire species being oppressed, that you can't really do anything about it. Maybe you can help one person or one small group, but it's rare that a game gives you an opportunity across the board to help lift up a species that is being so cruelly treated. But it at least appears that we're going to get that opportunity in Veilguard, and then we might be able to side with forces that are determined to help the elves. That's what Solas has made it clear that he wants to do, and it'll be interesting to see what the tyrannical elven god's position is when we have an opportunity to interact with them. Regardless, I think we're going to get so much more lore and questions answered regarding the elven gods, regarding elvish history. I can't wait to see the Daedalus response to having their actual gods alive and in front of them all the way around. For those of us who are true hardcore Dragon Age fans, I think these developments are going to be really exciting to witness. Next on the list, and of course, you already know this had to be on there, the return of Morgan and hopefully a resolution to the story of the old god baby. So for those who didn't play Dragon Age Origins, you had the option at the end of that game to take the soul of an archdemon and place it in a baby that either you or Alistair created with Morgan. I definitely chose that option in my recent live stream playthrough of Origins a month ago, and I want to finally get full resolution on what the old god baby is and what Morgan's plans are for him. We did see him briefly in Inquisition, but we didn't really get any more information about what his powers are and what Morgan's thoughts were when she decided this is something she wanted to do. Even more interesting, it was pretty apparent that Morgan got the ritual to create the old god baby from Flemeth, and by extension from Mathal. So I'm thinking that it's really Mathal who has plans for the old god baby, and it'll be fascinating to find out what those plans actually are. And then last on the list, I am looking forward to digging into the gear and mechanics of this game. While I share the disappointment that many of you have regarding a game that's situated in Tevinter not having blood magic available as a tree, I think it's terrible what they said regarding not allowing blood magic to be available because they don't want you to be too evil. I think that's terrible reasoning, but yet still, I feel like the information they provided about what skill trees are available looks very interesting. Looks like there's a lot of different builds, a lot of interesting builds that we'll be able to create. And all of the armor and weapons just looks fantastic. The gear looks really, really detailed. So I'm hoping there's going to be a large variety of it that's going to satisfy a lot of different builds. And it's going to be fun to dig into the different mechanics and figure out what combinations work best. So I'm really excited to pull up all the weeds and go through the process of figuring that out. So those are the 5 things that I'm really, really excited for in regards to a Veilguard playthrough. Now let's talk about some of the things that I still have reservations on and make me question whether or not this will actually turn out to be a good game. At the top of the list is definitely the combat. Got a lot of reservations there. I'm so happy that this is front and center on the roadmap, and they're going to make it a priority to reveal more information about the combat prior to launch. It seems like they've had a slow drip of information regarding combat that just lowers people's excitement every single time, whether it be the fact that we're limited to 3 abilities, which sounds terrible for mages. They've said, of course, that that's not the case, that there's so many things mages and other classes can do that being limited to 3 abilities is not actually a big deal. But without more information, it's hard to see how that's possible. And then they've also, of course, confirmed that you will not have direct control over your party members, which brings Dragon Age much closer to being like Mass Effect. Mass Effect is, of course, one of my favorite series. In fact, it's my favorite series, period, of all times. But Dragon Age is not Mass Effect. And for me, it's not really exciting to try to make Dragon Age into Mass Effect. It's its own separate thing. It always has been its own separate thing. And being able to control your party members has been a very, very consistent part of the series. Now, Bioware has stated that the reason that they took this away is because in their playtesting, you have so much that you have to do in order to take care of your character. They found that most people weren't even bothering to switch over to their companions in order to manually select actions, which might very well be true if the companions have very strong AI. I have heard nothing about an ability for us to give our party members specific tactics while they use certain abilities at certain times. So if it's just up to the game AI for when companions will do certain things, I don't feel like I've ever encountered a game where I was wholly satisfied with the party member AI and never wished that, man, I could just take over this companion and do it myself. Even in the Mass Effect series, there were periods where I was like, I really wish I could just switch over to her and manually walk her over to where I need her to be. So honestly, what we know about combat, a lot of it seems disconcerting. I'm concerned that this is a part of the game that I'm not really going to enjoy, but I'm really looking forward to that showcase. Maybe it'll help to answer some of my reservations. Number 2 on the list, I think the visual design of many of the humanoid monsters in Dragon Age Veilguard is extremely underwhelming. Most especially the Darkspawn. We've talked about this a bunch already. I'm not going to harp on it a lot here. But whenever you pause on their faces, they look extremely goofy. They do not look threatening at all. and it's very unfortunate, especially considering this is a game where the blight is spreading. I feel relatively confident that the Darkspawn are going to play a large role in the game. So to see an enemy, in my opinion, poorly designed, who I also feel like I'm going to see quite a bit of, is unfortunate. I feel the same way about the demons. A little less so, because at least I've heard Bioware's explanation for why the demons look the way they look. Essentially, they said they wanted the demons to look like a soul just recently broke out of the Fade and then pulled together a mishmash of corpses that were around them to kind of protect that soul, and then they start roaming around causing havoc. And that's why you see, you know, the soul in the middle of the body and then a rib cage around them. It's supposed to give you that feel. So with that understanding of what kind of design they were going for, it makes me feel a little bit better about it. But at the end of the day, I still find a lot of those enemies underwhelming. The pride demons and some of the other demons and shades you run into, it just doesn't look as good to me as they did in some of the previous games. I don't feel that way about the more human enemies because, again, the armor and weapons in this game look very impressive. And so the humans that are wearing that type of gear, to me, they still look impressive and fun to fight. The third concern I have about this game is whether or not the elven gods will turn out to be compelling villains. So obviously, from a lore standpoint, it's fantastic to have access to these gods, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about them. But from the standpoint of conversing with these gods, or potentially even, but from the standpoint of conversing with these gods and feeling like they're compelling villains to go up against, I'm definitely concerned that they're going to come off as cartoonishly evil. We already know that both Elgar'nan and Gillenane are blighted, and many of the other villains that we've run into who are blighted, such as the Mother in Awakening, come off as very much so cartoony, you know, extreme end of the spectrum. And so I'm concerned about whether or not they're actually going to be villains we enjoy going up against. Strong villains was a staple in Dragon Age Origins with Loghain and a couple of other characters you really enjoy going up against. And even Dragon Age 2 had the Shock, who I felt like was an extremely strong villain, even though Meredith, the actual true final villain, wasn't quite as compelling. Dragon Age Inquisition fell off in this regard. I felt like Corypheus had a fantastic introduction, but then that was really squandered, and he ended up being a mediocre villain overall. And so I'm hoping that Veilguard will be a return to form, and we're going to have compelling villains once again in order to go up against. Most especially, I hope the writers have done a good job with their reasoning for why Solus was wrong for imprisoning them. And then number 4 on the list, I'm concerned about whether or not the party members will be compelling. I think the worst part of Bioware's marketing thus far has been on the trailer that focused strictly on the companions. And we haven't really heard the companions interact with each other all that much, or really direct interactions between Rook and the companions either. We just have the 20-minute gameplay trailer where everything is pretty much on rails and it's all about fighting Solus. To me, the party members and their banter has consistently been the core part of the experience for all of the Dragon Age games. And so to not see any of it this deep into the marketing, I feel like is a little bit concerning. So I know there's a part of the roadmap that focuses specifically on the companions, and I'm really hoping that there'll be information there that puts some of my concerns to rest. But if the party members are not good, this game is absolutely going to fail for me personally. There's nothing that irritates me more than having to spend 100 hours running around with a bunch of party members that I find to be bland. So that's a reservation for me, but I'm hoping that before the end of this month, it's going to be cleared up. And then the last reservation that I'll mention is Bioware has really touted the way you're going to use the Illuvian mirrors to be able to bounce around to all kinds of different places. And to be frank, while I really enjoy the idea of being able to visit these remote locations that we've never seen before in a Dragon Age game, there's also a part of me that's concerned that this direction will cause us to get a lot less Teventer content, which would be a shame. Again, I feel like each Dragon Age game has really been centered in one particular location, and we've been looking forward to being in Tevinter for a really, really long time. So as much as it would be entertaining to see some of the other different areas, I want this game to be firmly rooted in Tevinter. And the way that it's marketed, it kind of gives me pause. It makes me feel like maybe Tevinter is kind of going to be a sideshow and variety is what they're focusing on, which for me personally, I'm not going to say it's the wrong direction for Bioware, but just for me personally, it would be a disappointment and I would walk away from the game absolutely wanting more Tevinter content. And that's it. Those are 5 aspects of the game that I'm really excited for, really looking forward to. And then 5 aspects of it that I'm kind of reserved on and makes me question whether or not this is an experience I'm going to enjoy. At the end of the day, I've already said I'm excited. I think the last trailer was fantastic. I think there's a lot to love about what we've seen thus far. And I absolutely plan to check this game out when it releases on October 31st. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you excited for the game? Are you planning to play it? If not, what are some of the reservations you have that perhaps the roadmap will answer over the course of this month? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.